The news of a brand new round of stimulus checks has taken center stage in America's financial conversation, and this time the figure is larger and more specific than what many had anticipated. A confirmed payment of $2,700 is set to go out to qualified families and retirees, marking what could be one of the most direct financial relief packages in recent memory. The confirmation comes directly from former President Donald Trump, who made it clear that these payments are part of a broader effort to provide targeted relief in the midst of rising costs, lingering inflation concerns, and economic uncertainty that continues to weigh heavily on households across the nation. At a time when many Americans are feeling squeezed by high grocery bills, increasing rents, and elevated energy prices, the announcement of these payments could not have come at a more critical moment. Families with children, retirees living on fixed incomes, and individuals who are struggling to make ends meet are expected to see this financial boost as a vital cushion. For some, it means catching up on overdue bills, while for others it might represent an opportunity to build a small emergency fund or finally afford essentials that have felt out of reach. The figure, $2,700, was not randomly chosen. According to officials close to the matter, the amount was calculated to provide meaningful relief without overstretching fiscal budgets. It lands at a level that is significant enough to have an immediate impact on household finances, while still being structured to prevent runaway inflationary pressures. This balancing act has been one of the major challenges for policymakers. How to deliver relief without fueling further economic instability. Trump's confirmation, therefore, carries not only the weight of political approval, but also the reassurance that this payment has been carefully considered as part of a broader economic strategy. For retirees in particular, the news is likely to feel like a lifeline. Many older Americans rely heavily on Social Security benefits, which have struggled to keep pace with the rising cost of living. While cost of living adjustments help to some degree, they often lag behind real-world expenses. A lump sum payment of $2,700 provides retirees with the flexibility to address urgent needs, whether that be paying down medical debt, covering prescription drug costs, or simply ensuring that monthly bills are met without sacrificing essentials like food and transportation. For families, the support comes as back-to-school expenses, childcare, and healthcare costs continue to climb, stretching household budgets to their breaking points. The confirmation of these stimulus checks has also sparked broader political debate. Supporters argue that the payments demonstrate responsiveness to the economic realities facing millions of Americans, bridging gaps where traditional programs fall short. Critics, on the other hand, question whether the funding could worsen fiscal deficits or create dependency. Yet what cannot be denied is the immediate sense of relief felt by those who are set to receive the payments. Trump's emphasis on putting money directly into the hands of the people echoes a populist sentiment that has long resonated across the political spectrum. In times of economic turbulence, the quickest and most visible support often comes in the form of direct payments. Beyond the political noise, the practical implications of this decision are significant. Economists note that when families and retirees receive stimulus funds, much of that money is spent quickly in local communities. From grocery stores to gas stations, from pharmacies to utility companies, the ripple effects of direct cash payments are felt almost immediately in the real economy. Unlike tax credits or more complex relief measures, which often take time to filter through the system, direct deposits and checks create a sense of instant stability. This immediacy is one of the reasons why stimulus checks have remained such a popular mechanism for financial relief during times of crisis. At the same time, it is important to recognize that while $2,700 is meaningful, it may not resolve all financial struggles. For a family of four, the boost is significant but not transformative. For a retiree living alone, it may cover a few months of expenses, but not address longer-term challenges. Still, the psychological reassurance of knowing that help is on the way can have its own powerful impact. It signals to Americans that policymakers are paying attention, that leadership is responsive, and that relief is possible even in turbulent times. This reassurance is as critical as the money itself, particularly as confidence in the economy has fluctuated in recent years. The announcement has also raised questions about eligibility and distribution. Who qualifies for the $2,700 checks, and how will they be delivered? While details are still being clarified, it is expected that the framework will follow similar guidelines to previous rounds of stimulus. Families under a certain income threshold, retirees drawing Social Security, and individuals with moderate to low earnings are likely to be prioritized. The simplicity of direct payments makes them easier to roll out quickly, reducing bureaucratic delays. Americans remember the earlier rounds of stimulus during the pandemic, where direct deposits arrived swiftly for millions, while paper checks reached those without electronic banking access. This time, efficiency will once again be a priority to ensure that money reaches those who need it most without unnecessary complications. The political landscape surrounding the announcement of the $2,700 stimulus checks has also added to the drama. While Trump's confirmation brought clarity, the broader implications extend far beyond a single payment. This move is already being framed by many as both an economic measure and a political statement. By focusing relief efforts on families and retirees, the policy underscores a commitment to the demographic groups that represent the backbone of American society. Families form the foundation of the nation's workforce and future, while retirees embody decades of contribution and deserve stability in their later years. Addressing the needs of both at once creates a narrative of fairness and inclusivity that resonates strongly across the country. Financial experts point out that this stimulus comes at a crucial moment. Inflation, while moderating slightly from its peaks, still exerts pressure on everyday expenses. Housing affordability has worsened in many regions, and interest rates have left many borrowers with heavier monthly obligations. In such an environment, the infusion of $2,700 is not just an abstract figure. It is rent-covered, debts managed, and necessities secured. For many families, it is a chance to finally catch their breath in a cycle of financial stress. For retirees, it is reassurance that their fixed income will not leave them stranded when unexpected expenses arise. The logistics of distribution are likely to follow well-established patterns. Eligible recipients should anticipate seeing funds delivered through direct deposit if their bank information is on file, while others may receive physical checks by mail. In addition, retirees who receive Social Security benefits will likely see their stimulus payments processed through the same channels. Policymakers emphasize that the system has improved since the earlier rounds of pandemic-era relief, with lessons learned from past delays and complications. The expectation is that this rollout will be smoother, faster, and less prone to administrative hiccups. Economists are already discussing the potential ripple effects on the broader economy. Direct cash payments have historically spurred consumer spending, especially when distributed to lower and middle-income households who are more likely to spend the money quickly. This kind of spending fuels local businesses, stabilizes communities, and creates a cycle of economic activity that benefits far more than just the individual recipient. Grocery stores, pharmacies, utility companies, and service providers all see an uptick in revenue when stimulus funds are released, which in turn supports jobs and keeps local economies healthy. While the $2,700 payment may not be enough to overhaul the economy, its cumulative effect across millions of households could still be significant. Of course, alongside the optimism comes skepticism. Some critics argue that while stimulus checks provide short-term relief, they do little to address the structural challenges that families and retirees face. Rising healthcare costs, inadequate retirement savings, and wage stagnation are long-term issues that require more than one-time payments. Others worry about the impact on federal deficits, warning that frequent rounds of stimulus could deepen the government's debt burden. Yet for everyday Americans trying to balance their budgets, the immediate benefits far outweigh the abstract concerns of long-term fiscal policy. In fact, many recipients see these payments not as charity, but as a return on their contributions to society and the economy over time. Beyond the dollars themselves, the announcement has also had a psychological effect. For months, Americans have been bombarded with headlines about economic slowdowns, market volatility, and political stalemates. The confirmation of concrete, tangible support has shifted the conversation. at least temporarily, toward hope and relief. This morale boost cannot be underestimated. When people feel supported, they are more confident, more optimistic, and more engaged in their communities. Stimulus checks, in this sense, represent not just financial aid, but also a signal of stability and leadership. In communities across the nation, stories are already emerging of how people plan to use the money. Parents talk about covering back-to-school expenses, paying off utility bills, or finally scheduling long-delayed dental appointments for their children. Retirees share relief at being able to afford essential medications without cutting corners on groceries. Others plan to set aside the funds for emergencies, knowing that in uncertain times, a cushion can mean the difference between crisis and resilience. These stories illustrate the human side of economic policy, the way numbers on a government ledger translate into real-world impacts on daily life. Looking forward, the question remains whether this $2,700 stimulus is a one-time measure or the beginning of a broader series of relief efforts. Some insiders suggest that additional rounds could be considered if economic pressures persist, while others argue that this payment is designed as a singular intervention to bridge current challenges. For now, what matters most to recipients is that help is coming. The reassurance of a confirmed, direct payment provides immediate comfort in a way that promises of long-term reform cannot always match. Ultimately, the confirmation of these payments reflects a broader truth about governance and economic policy. When people are struggling, immediate relief matters. Theories, debates, and projections may fill think tanks and political circles, but what resonates with the public are actions that make a difference in their daily lives. A $2,700 stimulus check does not solve every problem, but it delivers tangible hope, and that is something Americans desperately need right now. Whether used to catch up on bills, to invest in essentials, or simply to provide a sense of security, this payment represents both financial and emotional relief at a pivotal time.